Lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
Let's face it, most people aren't making massive turkey feasts on the regular, and after 364 days of not thinking about it, it can be hard to get that bird just right. That's where Instacart, the holiday rescue app, comes in. From getting all the ingredients to prep a full seasonal spread to getting last-minute swaps in a turkey emergency, Instacart has everything a holiday host needs to save face and save dinner. And right now, if you download Instacart, you get free delivery on your first 3 orders and delivery in as fast as 1 hour. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
Ah.
Well, this is just neat.
You! Check upstairs, make sure everything's locked up.
Surely there's somewhere we can go. A safe haven?
Lady said to stay put.
You would take orders from a woman? Are you feeble in some way?
Ma'am, in the army we have a saying. Sit down and shut the... Whoa! She must be right. We must have some kind of amnesia.
I don't know what that is, but I'm certain I don't have it. I bathe quite often.
How do you explain this?
I don't. I was brought up a proper lady. I wasn't meant to understand things. I'm just meant to look pretty, and then someone nice will marry me. Possibly a baron.
This ain't no tea party, princess. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to fight.
Fight these low creatures? I'd sooner die.
Then you'll die.
Oh, good. You guys are all right. It's total chaos out there.
Who are you?
Everybody, welcome to our podcast. I'm Penny.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Mark.
And this is Still Slaying, a Buffyverse podcast dedicated to all things Buffy.
This episode, we're going to start with highlights from Season 2, Episodes 4 and 5, then get into it about Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Halloween, directed by Bruce Seth Green, and written by Carl Ellsworth, Reb Des Hotel.
We don't know.
That's exactly what I did last time.
Dean Batali and Marty Noxon. Original air date was October 27th, 1997.
Welcome to Still Slaying Mark.
Yay.
For people out there listening, if you don't know Mark, he is a friend of Podcastica. He has his own podcasts, Panels to Pixels and Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Buffy?
Well, Buffy, that's a pretty funny thing because I remember it originally starting with the original movie with Christy Swanson. And I was so hyped for it. And obviously we got the same writer-director from that continued the saga but more dramatized. And I was looking forward to the show because I remembered the movie thinking, oh, it's going to be as kooky and comedy like that with Christy Swanson and Paul Rubens and the whole cast, like, or maybe have somebody from there. And once I saw like the promotion for it, I was like, okay, this looks a little darker. This looks a little cool. So I really got into the idea and I thought, okay, I got to give it a shot. So after the first 5 episodes, I kind of got my girlfriend at the time into it, and she loved it from then on. And I loved the series. The first season was, I kind of felt was like a whole introduction of the new Buffyverse, which was really cool. And I just love the show ever since, and I'm a completionist, so I watched it from season 1 all the way till the very end. And I just loved all the actors, the characters, the drama, the commentaries that they had in it. And it's a real true a true discussion, I think, or even commentary on women in that current day, or girls going through high school or growing and learning and adapting, but her being the hero and being that female centric. I really loved that idea. Now, if you ask me about Angel, I wasn't really a big fan of that. I followed it, but I didn't. But
I loved them both. Yes. But Angel is definitely has a different flavor than Buffy, and
very different.
It's got some of the same like wittiness, but it's darker and it's a little bit more adult in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I used to call it Buffy After Dark because there was that Baywatch After Dark show that they had for like 6 months that was like the Baywatch like crime fighters or whatever.
It was excellent. And by excellent, I mean terrible. But excellent.
I mean, it was Baywatch. And so I started calling it Angel After Dark amongst my friends, or Buffy After Dark. And they were all like, ha, 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 you know, whatever. All right, let's recap the episodes that we skipped, and then we can start talking about the Halloween episode.
Previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Such special episodes that we skipped. I will say I did rewatch Inca Mommy Girl this time around, and that episode ages absolutely terribly.
Yeah,
it does.
I don't know how great it was when it first aired, but especially now I was like, oof, this is special. So that was season 2, episode 4. And in that episode, Sunnydale High School plays host to foreign exchange students, giving plenty of opportunities for problematic behavior. Don't get us started on the cultural appreciation soiree at the Bronze. Especially Willow's Inuit costume that Oz first spots her in. Xander,
inappropriate.
Oh yeah. Xander, of course, ends up developing feelings for Empata, the student staying at the Summers house, but she turns out to actually be a centuries-old Incan mummy who needs to drain the life force from others to live. Buffy ultimately identifies with Empata in that they both have been chosen to sacrifice their lives for others. We do meet Oz in this episode, played by Seth Green, and we find out that he is the guitarist in the band Dingoes Ate My Baby, one of the best band names I think that I've ever heard, as he notices Willow for the first time. And this episode is certainly painful to watch with a modern lens, but I'm not gonna lie, I still, it is Buffy. I think it's still an important one to at least maybe skim through just so you can see Oz spotting Willow for the first time, because that is one of my favorite episodes in this season, or moments in this season, not episodes.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, the one thing that I like about this episode, around the same time, within I guess 3 years, they had a movie out called The Kiss with Meredith Salinger, and it had to deal with somebody who was like a mummy. And it was a woman that was dating her father, and you find out she was trying to suck the life out of Meredith Salinger's character in the movie so that she could live on. I need a kiss.
That's fantastic.
So, lovely late 90s theme going on with really sucking the life out of people. And Hocus Pocus, I guess that was early 90s, but they had that too.
Season 2, episode 5 is called Reptile Boy. And I just want to give a content warning. There's a brief discussion of rape right now, so you might want to skip ahead like a minute. In this episode, slaying is slow, and feeling rejected by Angel, Buffy has time to get into some more traditional teen girl trouble. She meets a couple of college guys who are trolling for girls at the high school, and gets invited along with Cordelia to a frat party. Buffy and Cordy are then roofied at the party and almost sacrificed to a giant snake man demon in a Sunnydale twist on date rape. These frat brothers are, of course, a cult sacrificing virgins to a demon in exchange for prosperity. It's very Veronica Mars, if you've seen Veronica Mars.
That's true.
Up until the demon part, this was a very realistic portrayal of how some men prey on young women and girls. It brought up a lot of emotions for me, and I have like 3 pages of notes about the episode, and I was like, we're not even covering this one. And I think that it fosters, it provides an opportunity for a serious conversation about rape culture, but I don't think this podcast is really the right place for it. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about it. Obviously, I have a lot to say, but we're trying to have fun. So let's talk about the Halloween episode.
Yes.
Which is so much fun.
So great.
Lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
Well, shopping for a car?
Yep, Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.
All right, so just a little context. The number one song in the U.S. at when this aired was the Princess Diana version of Candle in the Wind. She had just been buried. Her funeral was like just a few weeks earlier. I thought this was entertaining. The number one song in the UK was Barbie Girl by Aqua. Given that Kara and I co-hosted with Jason Kabasi the Barbie review on the Cast of Us, was that what we ran that on?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it actually also went out on this feed. No, on the Yellow Jackets feed.
Yeah.
Anyway, and Devil's Advocate was number one at the box office. That's the movie with Keanu Reeves as a lawyer who gets hired by Al Pacino as Satan.
I do like that movie.
I love that movie. It's one of the only lawyer movies I like because it is so over the top.
It is.
It's so preposterous. It doesn't bother you that it's inaccurate.
Yeah, it's ridiculous and it's fun, and Keanu Reeves is at his most Keanu Reevesiest. It's so great.
Whoa, I'm a lawyer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, jeez. I will say, I would add, going on at this time, just because I'm a baseball fanatic, the Marlins had just won their very first World Series in 1997. I remember watching that on TV, and I think it was the day before this aired. And this is one of the few Buffy episodes early on that I have a solid memory of watching when it came out, because I was obsessed with Halloween. I think we covered this. I was like 9 when the season aired. And I was allowed to watch Seventh Heaven, which came on right before this.
That's a whole nother story, everybody, too.
I really, that show ended up being very special. But I stayed on the channel and continued watching Buffy, and I just remember loving it so much and wanting to dress as Willow for Halloween. And that did not go over well, and that did not happen, at least not when I was 9. So that was
I don't blame you. One. Willow is very cool, and she looks hot as hell in this episode. True. Well, let's get into our points, and Mark, as our guest, you go first.
Well, the funny thing is about this episode, you talked about the number one song in the UK being Barbie Girl. Cordelia actually makes a comment in the show, this episode, about Barbie. And it's so hilarious of when... I have it in my notes somewhere about... It's like, I have this... he could run around and give me this Barbie car or something like that. It was so interesting.
Oh, it was the Barbie dream car.
Dream
when
car.
She was talking to Angel at the Bronze. That's right. Barbie dream car.
Yep, which is so funny too. We get a little bit more Oz in this, which I really did enjoy, and he does take notice more of Willow at the very end, which is really cool. So there's something that's clued into that, and then I think this is the first time that, of all things, Cordy actually realizes that, oh, Angel is a vampire, and she doesn't believe Buffy when she says it in the bathroom.
I don't think she even believes it at the end of the episode. I'm not sure Cordelia... I don't know when Cordelia finds out that he really is a vampire. Yeah. I don't know if she understood that by the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Like, you would hope that at some point... I know she... Because I think it happened somewhere technically off screen. Because at some point, moving forward, she just knows. She's just aware of it.
Yeah,
but I do love Oz seeing Willow again and how he repeats the line that he says in Inca Mummy Girl when he sees her, like, who is that girl? And the contrast of her being in this, like, giant, like, Inuit fur coat completely covered up. And that's when he first sees her and she catches his attention. And then she walks in front of his van and is, like decked out in like midriff abs showing. And he's just like, who is she? And
I mean, I get it, right? If somebody's really interesting in one way and then you see them in a completely different way, you're like, oh, there's even more than I thought. Like, it makes them like more than twice as interesting, right? It's like,
yeah,
I just love how it plays into the theme of essentially duality that we have going on in the episode, where Willow, she usually is part of the crowd, blending into the background, covered up, like quiet, and he notices her first then, and then in this episode, she's kind of in your face and up front. She's taking charge and, not covered up. And he appreciates both sides of her. And if you can't tell, I love Willow and Oz together. I do love future people that, Willow is involved with. But Willow and Oz have a very special place.
All right, we could talk about that in the spoiler section.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty great scene. Let's talk about Willow's outfit for a second. It was so 90s. That was like the most 90s of 90s outfits ever. It was like burgundy. She had on like dark lipstick. Remember how in dark lipstick was in the 90s? Like everything was like wine and berry colored and like the hair, the updo with the like, strands in the front.
In front of her face, the choker.
Oh, yeah, the choker. It was just, it was delightful. I don't know if Mark can identify with this as much, but I
can identify it that my girlfriend at the time would dress like that.
There you go. Okay.
She was a petite little thing, but would try to accentuate, and she just loved the big lipstick, too. And then she would do her hair up, and then her top was kind of tight and pushed up too, and this is so not Willow personality at all. This is Buffy dolling her up, and then I just love the aspect of she just wants to go back to the ghost costume. She just comes back and puts it over it, but as soon as the spell happens, that's when it gets kind of, it vanishes. Literally, it comes off her.
She's forced to just be who she is in front of people and get over it because there's an emergency.
Yes.
And it ends up being that this crisis did something really good for Willow and her self-esteem. Not only does she like have to walk around in this outfit and at no point does anyone like point and laugh or any of the other things she probably was afraid of, but also she has to take charge because everyone else doesn't remember who they are. And she's good at being in charge.
She is. Willow's great in this episode.
Yeah.
I will say one scene that I will laugh at hard every single time that I see it is when she appears walking through the wall in the library and scares the hell out of Giles.
Oh yeah, she just passes through.
Single time.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny. And his exchange with her, you know, when she's kind of summed everything up about everybody turning into what they were costumed as, and he's like, you know, and your costume, and she's just like, I'm a ghost. And he's like, a ghost of what exactly? And the way he's stammering and trying to find the words, I was like, yeah, that's fair.
Christmas past.
Oh yeah. I think, what is it, the subtitles, I don't know if it was on this or on the DVD commentary, it says like rocker chick or like sexy rocker chick or something is what she was supposed to be. I was like, yeah, I didn't get that.
I don't think when Buffy puts that outfit together for Willow that she has a character in mind. No. She's just like, let's make you sexy.
Yes. Scantily clad Willow is what she is. And she did.
Scantily clad Willow, yeah. If that was her Barbie version, it'd be like, it would come with the ghost, and the ghost thing would come off. So you could have her in the outfit or put the ghost costume over the top of it. That would be a great Barbie. I would buy that Barbie. All right, we were with Mark. We kind of veered off course. Where should we go now? Mark, do you have more about? You were talking about Oz, right?
Well, yeah, we got a little snippet of Oz in the Inca episode, Inca Mummy Girl, but this gave a little bit more. I think it was more of an introduction of Oz and who he is, and you get that sarcasm and dry humor that he has. So you get to know him more as a character, and I think they were salt and peppering him into episodes so that way he would become a regular at a certain point, and then obviously
it's a good introduction to a new character instead of having him just like appear and become Willow's boyfriend in one episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His interaction with Cordelia when she's asking, you know, if Devin is going to be playing tonight at the club, and she's going off like, Mr. I'm the lead singer, I'm so great, and he's like, yeah, you know, he's just going by Devin now. Like, his delivery and that dry wit that you're talking about is just, it's so good, especially when contrasted with Cordelia and her kind of, you know, chaotic, over-the-top nature, and he is
the chillest.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was instantly my favorite character when he showed up on the show. I was taken with him. I have a thing for redheads anyway, and he's often a redhead. Yeah. Although his hair color changes often on the show, without warning and without comment. It's just different sometimes. And I've really been a fan of Seth Green's career after Buffy. Not just the Austin Powers movies that most people probably know him from, but Robot Chicken. It's brilliant.
Yeah, he created that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
He was great.
It started as like just a thing he was doing for fun with his friends, and then it exploded. So cool.
Yeah, he was also great. And first time I had seen him was in Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater.
Oh, I don't remember that.
He was in a side scene where he was one of the rocker kids listening to Happy Harry Hard-On, or sorry if that's upsetting. But yeah, he was in that movie, and he was one of the kids, and he had longish, like a mullet kind of haircut. But he was always a child actor that was always somewhere, but it was him in like 89, 90 at that point. And
yeah, I've definitely seen him in like Lego commercials or something, like, you know, in one of those like before they were famous type shows. He and Sarah Michelle Gellar were old friends. They already knew each other because they both went to the High School of the Performing Arts in New York.
Ah,
that's neat.
So when he came on the show, she was like, "Oh, Seth," you know, they were like already buddies.
I will say, I guess with my age, everything I associate him with is like terrible teen movies of the time. Like, Can't Hardly Wait.
Idle
Can't
Hand?
Hardly Wait.
Yes, and Idle Hand. Like, both of those I could see, like, gosh, I could still... I can't believe I watched those movies as many times as I did.
yeah, but they're fun.
They are fun. And Rat Race, I think.
Rat Race is great.
Like, just all these random comedies. And Without a Paddle. That's another one that I probably watch way more. But he just, I don't know, he's excellent. And obviously Family Guy. I can't not associate him with Chris Griffin. So he's
very
well-rounded.
talented. And I get the sense that he has set up a life for himself within Hollywood that is like manageable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he's not in the public eye a ton. He's making work he likes with people he likes.
Yeah.
It's like he's winning at Hollywood.
He's very
he seems
creative.
to have made good choices. He is really creative. Like Robot Chicken is just, as people, if you're listening and you have not seen Robot Chicken, please check it out. Because there's something for everyone.
Yes.
Usually in each episode.
Yeah, that's true.
One Oz tidbit in that end of the episode scene where he sees Willow and he's sitting in his van at like a stoplight or whatever. Is he sitting on the right? Is his van a British van?
I believe so.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever noticed that before.
Me neither. Not until this episode on rewatch. I watched it twice.
So random.
And I have it on iTunes and on DVD collection.
So
nice.
Funny.
Yeah, I have all the DVDs and all the Angel DVDs.
Angel.
Way before there was, streaming. That was how I had to feed my obsession.
Yeah, I used to do a rewatch of Buffy almost every year and go through all the seasons. And I would do it as a marathon for like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and it would just blend, do like 2 or 3 episodes a night, or I had a lot of time. But the funny thing about this, and speaking of Angel, I think it was the first time I ever saw David Boreanaz smile as Angel when he was in front of Cordelia.
Yeah, he laughs. He looks like a normal person.
And he wasn't wearing his doomy gloomy jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time,
like a button-down shirt.
Yeah.
He looked like maybe he was trying to look like an average guy for his date.
Ah, true.
Probably. And honestly, I don't know how intentional it is, but one of my points is duality, and that theme carried throughout, and we see a different side of Angel. We see him, not in all black and brooding. He's in this light blue shirt. He's laughing. He looks like he's enjoying himself. And that's not really a side to him that we've seen before. So it's nice we get to see other sides of pretty much, and other characteristics of pretty much everyone in this episode.
Kara, do you want to just jump into that point?
Sure. So we, in this episode, we get the introduction of Ethan Rayne and see that he has essentially invoked the Roman god, is it Janus, I believe is how you pronounce it. And Janus is essentially, he is the literal two-faced god and the Roman god of gates and doors, beginnings and endings, duality, all of these things. And we see that theme throughout the episode. And going through, especially our main characters, our Scooby Gang, with the exception of maybe Cordelia, we see a lot of duality going on. With Buffy, obviously, she is wanting to dress up in a way that she thinks Angel wants, this noblewoman back in the 18th century. So we see Buffy typically as, she's strong, she's a slayer, she's a fighter. And in this episode, we see more of her feminine and vulnerable side. And I also think we see Buffy most of the time with these very heavy adult responsibilities, and in this episode she's almost childlike, and she's got to be taken care of, and she's looking to everybody else for direction. And it is kind of heavy-handed at some points when she's talking about, I'm supposed to marry a man, or the men will tell us what to do, and all of that. It's like, all right, we get it. But we do see this kind of underdeveloped, more vulnerable side of Buffy come forth. And with Willow, obviously, we've talked about her, she's got this sexy, like spicy out there outfit, and usually she's blending in with the crowd and kind of taking a back seat, but she steps up and she takes charge, and she's a leader, even though Xander is, the military guy or the soldier in this episode. She gives him an order at one point and he listens to her. Like, she does a very good job of, putting her leadership skills on display. So we see that side of her coming out. And then Xander, there's this contrast of not only weakness and strength, but being emasculated and then masculated once he is stepping into this military guy soldier role, and the idea of cowardice with Larry and his interaction with Larry bullying him, and bravery where, you know, he gets so mad at Buffy for stepping in when Larry's about to like kick his ass.
Yeah.
And he's just like, Buffy, you know, a black eye goes away. Like,
yeah,
that cowardice, that reputation of being a coward, like, never does. So we see, you know, that side of Xander coming out, and we see that Cordelia kind of seems to respond to that side of Xander a little bit. And then probably my favorite is Giles, because Giles, you know, he doesn't have a costume from Ethan, but Ethan essentially accuses him of putting on this act and being the Watcher who's, you know, buttoned up and responsible. And we see the first glimpses of Giles's past as Ripper. Yep. And we kind of see that mask come off when he's fighting with Ethan, especially when he knees him. Like, the look on Giles's face, Anthony Stewart Head did it beautifully.
Yeah.
Where you see Ripper kind of peek through, and you're automatically, at least I was like, I want to know more. Like, now I'm intrigued. This kind of juxtaposition of, you know, light and dark, good and evil that Giles is dealing with, and that it hints is a part of his past, is just fascinating. But
I couldn't agree more.
You know,
I love that part.
Yeah.
It's just the whole episode. I think it was very well written to show all of these traits that, you know, everybody already has. It's this inherent part of them that's either repressed or underdeveloped, and we see each of these things kind of poking through and get a little airtime, essentially. And I love how they did that. I love the device of Janus and being able to explore different sides of our Scooby Gang.
That actually leads perfectly into my first point, which was about one of the major themes of the episode was insecurity.
Yes.
All of our characters are battling it in this episode, at least all the teens. And we don't really get to see Giles be insecure yet. But Buffy, it's about not being normal, right? Like, who am I kidding?
Yeah.
Dates are for normal girls who have time to think about nail polish and facials. You know what I think about? Ambush tactics, beheading. Not exactly what dreams are made of, right? It's part of her whole ongoing struggle that she has, you know, overarching the whole series, of the weight of the responsibility, the loneliness of the responsibility of being the Slayer, and also the, like, unfairness of missing out on all these normal teenage things, right? And so she's like, I can't even show up for a date without having, like, dirt in my hair, and they did not do a good enough job of making her look messy. I'm sorry.
Like,
she still looked absolutely gorgeous. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like one piece of straw.
Yeah.
Let's pretend she looked like she was a mess.
Yeah.
You know, and then she sees, of course, like, the ultimate icon of polished and put together for high school, Cordelia, making Angel laugh, no less. And she just turns around and leaves because she's very confident when she's being the Slayer.
Correct.
But she's not confident about her own intelligence, like in school, and she's not confident about Angel. And part of that is because Angel is 200 and whatever years old and moody and broody and not very forthcoming with details. Yeah. So, of course, she's kind of insecure about how he feels about her. But also, every 16-year-old girl is, except for Cordelia, apparently, is insecure about relationships and romance and dating. And I'm sure the same is true of boys. Just can't speak from personal experience there. I think all teenagers go through it. They're like, well, it seems like this person likes me, but maybe they don't really, and maybe they'd like me better if I was completely different. I mean, this is a time in a lot of teenagers' lives when they also try on lots of different personalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went through a goth phase, and then I went through, like, a hippy-dippy phase, and you got to try different things on. So Buffy's sort of playing with the idea of, what if I could be pretty and dress up and go to a ball and be a princess, and then,
Or capture Angel's interest, too, because that's literally what it was. Especially when her and Willow go, we need to get that secret file that the Watcher has, Giles has in the library of Watchers, that secret one. So Willow winds up getting it. That's where her infatuation with Angel comes into place, and why she wants to be one of those princesses or noblewomen of his time, which later on we find out he's like, I hated those girls. They were too snobbish and boring.
And whether or not that's true, it was the right thing for him to say to Buffy in that moment.
True.
In his 200 plus years of experience, he has definitely learned what is the right thing to say in that situation. He handled it very nicely.
He did. He's boyfriend material for now.
Oh, no.
But the funny thing is, too, is like even Willow points it out when Buffy's in that phase of the noble girl and the princess, and she's just getting so frustrated. Like, why can't you just be Buffy? Why can't you be the strong person that we know? Protect us. She goes, she couldn't dress up like Xena?
Yes.
Which was a popular show within that time because it was mid-90s, and that's when Xena and the Hercules hours happened on UPN. And obviously you have that reference in there. But it's so typical because Willow and Xander would think of that, and as well as Giles. It's like she has to step in, and her character does a complete turnaround, which is what she would always want because she was one of those girls that was more about, I need to be taken care of, or I want the makeup, I want to feel wanted as just being a woman.
Yeah.
And then you got Cordy, of all things, coming out and telling her in the bathroom, and goes, because they were talking about dating and all this other stuff about what girls go through in that time. And she goes, when it comes to dating, I'm the slayer. So how pompous that Cordy is, because Cordy just comes out about that. So basically, in the world of slaying vampires, that's Buffy's world. And in the world of, I guess, high school and meeting boys and getting dates, that's Cordy's world.
Yeah.
And she's just rubbing it right in. When she says that, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So
And
mean.
You can tell that Buffy takes it in and internalizes it, too.
Exactly.
I have to say that the Buffy Cordelia rivalry is not my favorite of the storylines in this series. It comes up several other times that the two of them sort of go head to head and compete, and it always makes me a little uncomfortable. And I think it's because I was not one of those girls in high school, and I think that Buffy wanting to be like hurts my soul a little bit since I love her so much. I'm like, no, you don't want to be one of those.
Well, at one point she was. There is a flashback in future episodes that we do see she was one of those girls before she was a slayer. So look forward to that, listeners, if you're first-time viewers, because there is going to be an episode later on. I'm forgetting which season. But
it's the season.
It is
at the end of the season.
At the end of the season. So we get to see somebody's history and how they come about and where their journey brought them to Sunnydale. But it's an interesting concept of how they invoke all these stories and then they continue them and they come back to them.
Yeah,
and that's
this show does a really good job of that, of like laying groundwork for future things to happen.
Yeah, the writing
and also
is there.
Callbacks. It's really it's one of the best strengths of the series.
And the same thing for Willow as well as Xander too, because we do know this whole soldier persona he has does come into play later on in future seasons. He goes, I still retain that soldier mentality. Or
hey, spoilers.
Sorry.
That goes in the spoiler section. All right, so In addition to Buffy being insecure about her femininity or her lovability, Xander, obviously, we talked about this, very insecure about his masculinity.
Yeah.
Xander is problematic. Every episode, he says at least one thing that makes me go, like, it's brutal. In this one, it was when he said, "I prefer my women in spandex, ladies."
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Xander.
oh, it made my skin crawl. It was brutal.
Well, even when he's talking to Larry, and Larry, I don't know, I just don't love Xander most of it. But when he says, Larry says to him, you know, I heard some guys say she was fast, and Xander's I hope you mean like the wind. And Larry's like, you know what I mean. First of all, how did that rumor get started? It seems like Buffy doesn't talk to anybody.
Correct.
I'm assuming it would be her sexy dance with Xander at the Bronze that everybody saw, maybe. But other than that, I don't know. But when Xander reacted like, hey buddy, that's my friend, I immediately was like, okay, Xander. He was like, it's only okay when I sexualize Buffy. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But it happens too much, in my opinion. I think they should have. Eventually, I think they phased out of that to some degree when there was a respect for her.
Yeah.
Later on, I'm just saying.
It takes some. It does. It takes
some
while,
time.
But I think they do.
Because each of them, like each of the Scooby Gang, as well as Giles and Buffy herself, that whole gang, that group, come into their own and have a presence in Buffy's life that is very important to her, who sits by her or stands by her in battle or in helping her out. And not only in her personal life, but also in slaying.
Yeah. And as we talked about in the School Hard episode, that community of friends and family that she has is something that really sets her apart from other Slayers.
Correct.
And gives her strength and, you know, additional motivation that maybe some other Slayers didn't have because they were, you know, lonely and cut off. Mm-hmm. Her connections to the world are a strength. It's one of the themes that runs through the series as well, is that her emotions are something that she draws strength from in her connections and relationships. Even when they hurt her, it gives her strength.
Exactly.
Very much so.
And just to finish my insecurity point, we already talked about how Willow was insecure about dressing sexy.
Oh, Willow.
This brings us back to Mark.
Well, a point that I did like within the episode, and it kind of becomes a little dated for its time, for the 90s, and it's with Snyder and his invoking the kids and like pointing out how Buffy is a troublemaker and she has to do this for the public. Take these kids out. Oh, you, Xander, and you, Willow, are doing it too. So they force them to go take these kids out trick-or-treating from whatever till 5 o'clock or maybe 6 o'clock. And he makes the comment of, like, Snyder talks about shaving cream and toilet paper. Now, and the fact that, too, during that time in the 90s, it was at a time when even you don't really see many trick-or-treaters nowadays. If you see it as I do in my area. But, you know, that's very hard. But it put a smile to my face to see kids trick-or-treating and then them taking them on that. And the one where Buffy's in front of the house and the homeowner winds up giving toothbrushes and toothpaste as a treat, and she goes, "She must pay for this."
Yeah, that's so funny. We had a neighbor on our street that was a dentist and would always give out floss and, you know, little travel size toothpaste, but he would also give out like king size candy bars at the same time. So at least, you know, both.
That's fine.
To enjoy
the worst
your
was
giant candy, and then
the worst was the houses that would give you like Bible verses.
Oh, I never had that.
I never had that either. That doesn't sound fun.
Word spreads real fast in the neighborhood. Like, kids all talk to each other on the street. They're like, "Don't go to that house." Like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. You know, they give like little pamphlets about Jesus or
that Principal Snyder is like, "Buffy's dangerous. She's a troublemaker. Like, here, Buffy, supervise this group of children." for the night.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that,
we never
that
see
checks
any,
out.
none of those children have parents, apparently.
No.
So, like, they just, like, come to the high school and give them to random teenagers.
It sounds like a terrible idea.
But it's so
Even
90s
today would be a
because
terrible idea.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that would have happened when I was in high school. Like, that they would have been like, we have a bunch of high school kids, and they're gonna, teach these kids to swim, and then you parents can all go to a party. Like, I feel like I myself was often left with children that were like the children of strangers. Yeah. And I was like, you don't know if, okay.
Well, I think about it. I started babysitting, I think, when I was 11 or 12, which really now, I don't know if I'd let a 12-year-old watch my dogs.
Yeah.
At this point, like, but children, I guess.
I did too.
Times.
Yeah, 12. Very different time. Now, if you wanted to take a group of kids that weren't your own children trick-or-treating, you'd probably have to go through like a background check.
Yeah, sign a few waivers.
I would say.
What's it called? A Corey? Is that what it's called? Corey check?
I don't know.
There's a database that like all teachers have to get checked against.
It's interesting.
That's interesting.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great, but with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Let's talk about Spike.
Yeah.
So I love Spike, and I kind of sent in my little thing. I forgot how sire works, so thank you for correcting me. I forgot that lady sired Spike.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I feel like that was a... What do they call it?
Yeah, I had to correct myself on my feedback. But, as you said, Angel could be a sire, somebody that's above him in that respect. But the fact is that he utilizes the whole spell and trick-or-treating to his advantage.
Yeah.
And I don't think they mentioned how demons and vampires feel during Halloween, or how Samhain is celebrated in regular common culture with humans. So I think that's something that we'll talk in a spoiler episode for other stuff. But in this one, he uses the kids that are demons.
Yeah, I love it. He's like, I need minions. I'll just recruit these ones.
And they're little kids.
Yeah. And he's like, he talks to them about hunting Buffy, and he describes her as the tenderest meat. And I'm like, ew.
But he's just, his appreciation when he's like, standing out in the chaos and realizes what's going on. He's like, well, this is just neat. I love that line because it's so Spike. Like, he's thrilled. He's like a little kid. He's like, look at this. I didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, perfect
James
situation.
Marsters is so perfect as Spike, and I love him. I got to do a cameo with him and talk to him.
Oh, fun.
And I asked him during it, I had time, which was odd during the pandemic when I did that one with him. And I asked him, I said, is it true that you had Anthony Stewart Head help you with your accent? And he goes, yeah, he was helpful with my training and getting it right, because Anthony lived in the East End of London, and that's how it's that Cockney kind of
very
talking
helpful.
And he got it, and he would work with him on it, and he coached him on it, which is super.
That's
great.
awesome. I like stories like that. I like thinking about, I used to do theater, and I used to love when I would like get together with somebody else who was in the cast and, practice lines and talk about our parts. And I like thinking about actors that I like doing that and being friendly with each other and supporting each other. It's cool.
Yeah.
That is nice.
He was also great in House on Haunted Hill when he made his little cameo there with Lisa Loeb in the very beginning of the movie.
Yes.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to look for it.
That movie is
Yeah.
intense. That's another one I should not have watched at the age that I
Oh,
did.
you watched it? Yeah, you're far younger. I looked forward to that because I love
had
the original
nightmares.
Vincent Price version.
Oh my gosh, that movie. But he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And Spike is brilliant. And the contrast too of the way that Spike talks about Buffy, even apart from, Xander and Larry's little back and forth.
Yeah.
He reveres her almost.
He respects her.
He
does.
compliments her a good amount. Like when he's watching back the recording of her fighting
The spy
that
cam that
vampire.
somebody set up.
Yeah, which was a whole other special point.
He was a
But-
voyeur vampire.
Yeah, he's like, she's tricky. Like, you see that where she stakes him with that thing? And he's
Yeah.
like, that's what you call resourceful. And I love how, they're kind of twisted back and forth, dynamic. But he absolutely respects her and admires her. And I love every time he's on screen.
Yeah, he lights up the screen, right? Like, you cannot help but love seeing him. You know who he kind of reminds me of in just sort of the vibe is Loki from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I can
Yes.
see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
comedic,
It's this-
but the enemy
Charming.
or evil, but charming and kind of dim-witted too.
Yeah, like not always making good decisions, but impish and
Yeah.
and
Impish
almost
is a good
innocent in his joyfulness at chaos. Like
It's like
there's
Puck.
yeah,
He's a
he's
little
puckish.
Shakespeare.
I think Spike is sort of a surprisingly inspired character, and I know that the rumor is that he was only supposed to be in a few episodes, and then his part got expanded. I think James Marsters brings something to that role that wasn't on the page. I think the things that he is doing with Spike are uniquely his. There's a body language thing. There's a way he touches his own chest sometimes. Yeah, he is a remarkable actor. I've seen him in a lot of other things, and he's always good, but I'm always like, I just want to see you as Spike forever.
Yep. It's hard not to.
Did you guys ever talk about the comics?
Not yet.
Maybe in between seasons, we might do an episode about the comics.
That'd be fun. Because there are lots of things that, talking about foreshadowing and callbacks, there are so many things that end up coming up in the comics after the series wraps. It'd be fun to talk about them.
I haven't read all of them. I kept up with like the first year. So I'll have to go and get them and do some reading. Let's see. Oh, Drusilla. Drusilla was on point this episode.
Is it eyeballs to entrails?
She has the vision that something's going to come and make outsides become insides, and it'll make her weak. And he's like, "It will." Spike gets so excited.
Her awareness of Ethan literally is what it is.
Yeah.
Of somebody outside forces doing something, which is pretty cool. Her clairvoyance is not usually 100%, but it does come into play.
It tends to be sort of poetic, and so a lot of what she says depends on how Spike interprets it.
Yeah.
Right? But I love it that he gets so excited, like, oh, she's having a vision. He's like ready. He's like, yeah, this is my life. I follow this woman around the world, just like creating chaos and violence. It's awesome. Yeah.
He loves her so much.
Yeah. It's a match made in hell.
Yeah, it really is.
My only other point was really that there are a lot of firsts in this episode that end up, becoming important. First time we talked about seeing Giles as Ripper. First time we're introduced to Ethan Rayne. This is also the first time that we see Larry, and I don't think it's necessarily a huge spoiler. He goes to the school, he'll pop up again.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting dynamic with him as a bully. We also, see Willow and Oz actually bump into each other. So they have their first technical interaction in this episode. And we get to see, that as it develops. And I just, anytime, especially as a rewatch, anytime we can pick out a first, I get really excited. So that's something that I've been doing as we've been going through them. And I don't know. That was the only other real point I had, is how many little firsts that we get. And I think this is also the first time that we really get a solid indication of Drusilla's kind of seer abilities and her almost prophetic abilities. So that's always fun.
I had a point about Ripper versus Ethan, and we've already talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to talk about the spell that Ethan casts. It's he worships this god, the god of chaos, and he does the spell in front of the statue of Janus. He puts blood on his eyelids, which really grossed me out. Yeah. One of the lines he says is, "I remain as ever thy faithful degenerate son," which is really fantastic. I love the way Ethan speaks. I love the way he moves. He's very sort of cat-like. It seems like he's a little bit of a poet, a little bit of a romantic even. I'll talk more about Ethan in the spoiler section. When the spell takes hold, I feel like they did a really good job of showing the different people turning into their costumes.
Yeah.
When the kids turn and that old lady is like, "What the fuck is happening?" And like runs inside.
The kid starts strangling her. I was like, "Oh, all right."
And devouring her too, which is weird.
This is good.
So scary. And then like Willow is like, "Can't breathe," and then like passes out and then actually dies and then like floats out of her costume.
Yep.
I do think it's funny that she still makes noise when she walks. Her shoes on the ground are like clap, clap, clap. I'm like, they probably should have edited that out.
Yeah.
But the best is when it hits Xander, because the camera swoops in and Xander sort of like leans over and then pops back up with that gun. And he reminds me so much of the Terminator when he does it.
Yeah.
That it had to be intentional.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And then there's like chaos everywhere, right? There's like screaming and running, and it's so fun. And I kind of feel like Spike when he's like, "This is just neat." I'm like, yeah, like that's amazing. As a TV
just a
show.
good time. This whole episode is
especially when Xander gets his own payback for Larry and takes him out, and Larry's the pirate.
Yeah,
Larry turns into a pirate. I started laughing. I'm like, really? My network is called Pirate Corps. And it's like, okay. But the funny thing is also, for a second I thought, wait, is he a vampire pirate or is he just a pirate? And then I realized, oh, he's just a pirate when I watched it again. I was like,
he was so gross when he's like about to kiss Buffy with those like yellow
gnarly teeth.
Oh, it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
We don't see Buffy change into the princess character. But I do enjoy when they're like watching the chaos and Willow's like, "Buffy, what do we do?" And Buffy just faints.
Yep. Boom.
Yep.
Comedic timing at its perfection too.
It just sums up the whole thing. I also really enjoy all of the times that Buffy as the princess clings to Cordelia, and Cordelia is like, "Ugh, get off of me.
What is wrong with you?
Take a pill." Like Cordelia does not have any patience for it at all.
Not at all. I do I think, I think Buffy's storyline might be my least favorite in this episode, but I still enjoy it. Yeah. There are some really good moments. Like, I do like when the car's coming and Buffy's like, a demon.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, it's not a demon, it's a car. Yeah, what does it want? And Xander it's just like, is this woman insane? And when Willow kind of explains what's going on, he's like, I hope you know I'm taking a lot on, what does he say?
A lot on faith, lady.
Yeah.
One of my most favorite
thing.
lines is when Xander sees that photo of him, Willow, and Buffy together.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you know, she must be right. We do have some kind of amnesia. And then Buffy says, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure I don't have it. I bathe quite often.
That was funny.
I say that to people like all the time. And nobody ever gets it. I'll always be like, oh, I'm sure that's not it. I bathe quite often. And then they always look at me like I'm insane. And I'm like, that was funny if you are obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Those are
such
my
a good
favorite
line.
kinds of references.
Yeah. And then I also love, I was brought up a proper lady. I wasn't meant to understand things. I'm just meant to look pretty. And then someone nice will marry me. Possibly a baron.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh, poor thing. It's not going to be someone nice. It's a rich old man who is going to, like, rape you every night and make you have lots of babies.
I was like, sorry. This is not going to be great.
That's the 18th century for you. Yeah, this episode has a lot of really fun lines. Cordelia at one point says, when Angel's like, what's happening? And she's like, they don't know who they are. Everyone's turned into a monster. It's a whole big thing. I just love it.
Yeah,
It is,
especially
I think-
Buffy's lines are good too, and it dates are things that normal girls have to think about: nail polish and facials. You know what I think about? Ambush tactics, beheading. Not exactly the stuff dreams are made of, and it's a real good definition of what her life is, which I really enjoy.
It's kind of like the last episode that we covered, School Hard, where she's talking about her cream rinse. She's like, this cream rinse is neither creamy nor rinsey. And she's got, you know, these typical teenage girl problems and then Slayer problems. And watching her juggle those is part of the fun.
Yeah, but she still has Mr. Pointy.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Pointy.
And Gordo the pig.
Yeah, good old Gordo. I think this episode, though, would absolutely be on any quintessential Buffy list. If I was making a list for myself to rewatch or a list for people to watch to kind of just get the essence of what Buffy as a show is, this is an excellent one.
Well, what the show does very well is just like every other show. It's like Community did it. A whole bunch of other, like even The Big Bang Theory. Their Halloween episodes are so unique and different amongst each other. It's something that we all look forward to for every season because you know it's coming around. And each one is so good. And I almost started putting off the top of my head, like the next time we see a particular somebody. But, and I was like, wait a minute, that was so many seasons later, but it was such a good episode, and I was like, "Oh man, that's a good Halloween episode." No, it's not a spoiler at all in any way, but it's kind of vague. But the fact is, like, I would always suggest people to watch the Halloween episodes. Very much like how The Simpsons has a very Simpson Halloween, and each is unique unto its own, but there's so much fun.
They really are. It's like kind of Friends and Thanksgiving episodes. Those were some notable ones. There's some Seinfeld holiday episodes that are just classics.
Yeah.
It's just fun and festive, especially for a show that has supernatural horror elements to it. You gotta go all out on the Halloween episodes.
Yeah,
it's only
totally.
right.
Now, did you guys discuss the music that was within the episode too? Because
we haven't yet, but please do.
Well, one song was from Treble Charger, "How She Died," and that's when Willow walks in front of Oz's van at the very end and catches Oz's eye as she's walking past. So that was a new and up and coming band. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Epperly did "Shy" when Buffy and Angel talk. Like, there was that moment when they're talking together in the bronze. I could not find for the life of me who the band was that was actually playing at the bronze, though. Or what song that was, because that intrigued me the most.
Yeah. Sometimes the bronze acts are really impressive and amazing.
Seriously.
And I'm always like, this bar is not big enough to support, for example, Amy Mann. I'm like, there's no way.
No. Yeah, and I've seen her
It's
live,
like, how
too.
are they attracting this talent?
Yeah. Michelle Branch at the height of her popularity.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
She would not be at the bronze.
No.
Any other notes and stuff you guys want to talk about before we dive into news and stuff? And then
I just looked at my notes and they're all spoilery, so
yeah, so
I'll
spoiler
save those.
section.
Yep.
There's a question that we ask at this point of the episode. Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Does it still slay?
So you're asking me if it's slay or nay?
Yeah.
I like it.
You could use that. I just thought about that when I was listening to you guys originally podcast for the first time. I was like, slay or nay? Basically, I would say it slays for definitely a Halloween episode. Cool insights, the duality aspect of it with the characters, the cool introduction of Giles that we've never known and who he was before, and learning the name Ripper. I thought that was great. Seeing more Oz, and then of course to the vampires, the kills, the demons, and definitely of all things for me, David Boreanaz smiling in an episode. Broody McBruderson got to smile a little bit.
It's like, it's so rare.
Yeah. So, Kara, what do you say? Slay or nay?
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
I definitely say it still slays. Not only is it just all around fun, Spike is in it, so that automatically makes it a winner for the most part for me. But it's also one that there's not really anything super problematic that's still in it. Maybe the only thing is Willow making a reference, for me being wild equals spaz.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
that's not really an accepted
ableist
term anymore.
Right.
Or Xander's, the way he talks.
About Buffy,
and,
that exchange.
Sexualizing Buffy.
Yeah,
in his
which
words.
I guess I wish that was less prevalent now.
Yeah, I'm like, I
But-
feel like that's the thing about Xander is he drives me nuts. He says a lot of stuff that I find really offensive, but I'm also like, yeah, that's a lot like how I remember teenage boys.
I do try to keep in mind that he is portraying, what are they, high school sophomores at this point?
I think
Or
they're juniors.
Juniors, yeah.
So I try to keep that in mind when I start getting really irritated with Xander. Give him a little bit of grace. But I think, for the most part, it still slays. I watch this every Halloween. Even if I'm not doing a rewatch of Buffy, I watch the Halloween episodes. So this one is always on my list.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get tired of it.
No, me either.
Same here.
All right, so it's unanimous. 3 yay votes for It Still Slays. All right, we're going to take a little break, and then we have some news and listener feedback. And we're back. We have a little bit of news, and this is so exciting. I swear we did not know about this when we decided to launch this Buffy podcast, but there's brand new Buffy content on the way. I got this from Deadline Hollywood, but it was all over the internet, that there is going to be a new audio series on audible.com written by Amber Benson alongside Christopher Golden. and directed by Amber Benson, Golden, and someone named Casey Wayland. It's called Slayers, a Buffyverse story, and it's going to be centered around James Marsters' character Spike, who we all love. There are a bunch of original cast members who are going to appear in it. Charisma Carpenter, Anthony Stewart Head, Juliet Landau, Emma Caulfield Ford, Amber Benson, James Charles Leary, I don't know who that is, and Danny Strong are all confirmed to be in it. And I read one article that said, like, there's other people. So that's exciting. It's a parallel universe story. It picks up 10 years after the series finale of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Spike is deep undercover in Los Angeles, convincing the forces of darkness that he's back to his evil ways. And then I didn't copy anything else from the article because I thought it was spoilery.
I will say mildly spoilery about who James Charles Leary is.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, he is the actor who played Clem.
Yep.
Oh, Clem.
Yep.
I love Clem.
He was a cool character.
I'm excited.
Awesome.
Without
That's
being
awesome.
spoilery, everybody, we'll go into spoilers later.
Yeah. It's like he played a character.
That's all you could say.
And then also Allison Hannigan is on this season of Dancing with the Stars. She's been posting about it on like Instagram and stuff. I have never watched Dancing with the Stars, but I know that a lot of people love it, and probably there's a big overlap with people who love Allison Hannigan from Buffy or How I Met Your Mother.
I don't think I've ever watched an episode of that either.
Yeah, it doesn't really appeal to me, but that's fine. There's something for everyone.
True story.
So let's go and have a drink at the Bronze and hear what some of our listeners have to say.
Bronze things. Things of bronze.
Love it. So first up, we have feedback from Instagram. Side note, if you're not already following us on Instagram, you can follow us at @StillSlayingCast. And this bit of feedback comes from Jolene Abbey. She says Willow is the hero of this one, especially for she couldn't have dressed up as Xena. Also, the introduction of Giles as Ripper makes him even more interesting. I 100% agree.
Same here.
Exactly, yeah. We have 3 voicemails from various parts of the planet. I'm going to start us off with Steve Brown. I bet this is a live Steve. Let's see what we got.
Hello, Still Slaying. This is Steve, and I'm sorry I missed your debut episode, School Hard, but I have to admit a couple of things. I have watched this Buffy the Vampire Slayer series from the beginning. Like, I watched it when it aired originally. I have watched it multiple times. I am currently in a rewatch. Another podcast that doesn't really take feedback. So I'm excited to have this one get feedback and when it catches up with that other podcast. But I may still try to do some live Steves with these episodes. But there's one thing that I have to admit right up front, and I feel like an idiot, like a grand idiot about School Hard, is I have never, until your podcast, compared it with the movie Die Hard. I can't believe I never, like, I'm such a fan of Die Hard. Look, I literally have a poster of Die Hard, the movie, on my living room wall. I went to see that movie, I don't know, like 12 times in the theater before I joined the Air Force, and I can't believe I didn't make this connection with School Hard. I never have over the last 25, 26 years. So when you said it, it just literally blew my mind, and I was like, I can't believe I'm such an idiot. So thank you for that. Halloween. I don't know if I'm going to make the deadline for it. I hope I do. If I don't, no big. I'll try to make the next one. Another great episode. Xander gets to punch out the pirate guy when they're in costume, and he's like, that feels strangely cathartic. I love that line from him. That moment when the kids are trick-or-treating at the door and they actually change into real demons. Gosh, just hilarious. Buffy being this damsel in distress that we've never seen before. Just amazing. And Spike, everything about this episode is great, and I can't wait to hear more of what you're going to be talking about for the rest of this podcast. Talk to you later. And I can't believe, shout out to Mark, my fellow co-host on Panels to Pixels. Great to hear you on this episode. I can't wait to hear your insight into Halloween. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
That's awesome.
Steve.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that the Die Hard little fact made you so happy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It made me happy too, because I didn't know that aspect. I didn't put two and two together, even back then. When I was like, school, oh my goodness, it's right in my face. And he does actually does have a poster of Die Hard. When we podcast, I could see it sometimes.
That's fantastic. Awesome. All right, we have another voicemail from Onwen, my co-host on the Cast of the Rings. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, check us out. We cover Rings of Power as well as other stuff that's Lord of the Rings related. So here is Onwen from New Zealand.
Hi, Penny and Cara. Thank you so much for this Buffy rewatch podcast. I'm so excited and thrilled to be watching. I've been looking for an excuse to rewatch Buffy for ages, and I'm a little bit thrilled that you're just picking a few good episodes because it's a lot to try and get back to all of them. Really enjoyed watching this introduction of Spike and Drusilla last week. Such cool entrance for both of them. They're both such extreme characters and so much fun to watch. The look that he gives Buffy when he comes into the bronze and sees her is so intense. And obviously, he wants to kill her, but that look that he gives her where he's transfixed by her is fantastic, especially knowing everything that happens later in the season. No spoilers. This episode, Halloween, is really great as well. I love all the little snippets we get. Oz and Willow, just kind of, he's noticing her, which is really cool. Early Cordelia is fantastic as well. What's your deal? Take a pill. She's great. And it just reminds me how great the writing is in this show. The dialogue is so fun. And Buffy being completely helpless is a really fun change from normal. I don't want to go with you. I like the man with the musket. Do you have a musket? It was hilarious. And finally, I absolutely love our first glimpse of Ripper. So we get to see a little bit of perhaps Giles's past being a little bit different from what we might expect. I'll be listening along with you guys. Super excited. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Onwen. Always good to hear your voice and that lovely New Zealand accent that we get so many positive reviews about on Apple Podcasts.
Awesome.
Especially for a Lord of the Rings podcast. It does make me happy.
Yeah, it's
time
perfect.
I listen.
It's really perfect. And Onwen is like the sweetest person. I love working with her. It's fantastic. All right, our last voicemail is from Jody from Australia.
Penny and Cara, it's Jodie from Australia here. I'm so stoked that you've started this podcast, and I can't believe the timing. This is awesome. I actually started a rewatch of Buffy a couple of weeks ago because I needed to watch something familiar and comforting, but that I hadn't seen recently, and now I even get to talk about it with you, so I'm pretty excited. Thank you so much for inviting me to the Bronze. I feel particularly special. I did want to touch on the pilot episode of the series for a minute, if you could indulge me. And the reason I want to do this is because of the movie. So the movie came out in 1992, and despite what would be considered today a kick-ass cast, it had Donald Sutherland, Hilary Swank, David Arquette, Luke Perry playing against type as a geek and totally not believable because he was way too hot to be the guy that girls didn't notice. The movie was widely considered a flop. And I'm remembering this, so it's possible that I'm exaggerating, but I'm pretty sure the hype around the Buffy TV series initially was that it was a complete waste of time. The movie had already flopped. What was the point of doing a series that built off it? But as we all know, the series was a smash hit. Now, I personally loved the movie. It was so fun, and I was the right age to really enjoy it. But a movie really wasn't the right format to achieve the depth that the story needed. And the existence and legacy of the movie had the potential to hinder the launch of the TV series. But here's what I really think made the TV series the smash that it is, and it's a few different things. At the end of the movie, Buffy was considered a hero. She won, she burned down the gym, she killed all the vampires, saving everyone in a heroic move. But in the first episode of the TV series, we saw the consequences of her heroic actions. So the TV series opens with Buffy as a heavily monitored delinquent who previously fell in with the wrong crowd and got kicked out of her old school for fighting and burning down the gym. Her mum doesn't trust her. Her principal is looking at her as a troublemaker. It's a really stark contrast to who she really is on the inside as a hero fighting for humanity. And the sacrifices that come with this being the Slayer are immediately apparent in the pilot of the TV series, when they weren't even mentioned in the movie. In the movie, she was just set up as a hero. So I think this, and the depth of lore that could be explored in the show, as well as the insanely fantastic quips that the writers came up with for the different characters, Buffy and Cordelia in particular, are the basis of the success of the TV series, really. My favourite clip from Buffy in episode 1, when she's confronted by a vampire wanting to fight her. Are you sure? Because this is not going to be pretty. We're talking violence, strong language, adult content, and then she dusts the vampire creeping up on her from behind. She's awesome. My favourite quip from Cordelia in episode 1, she says to Buffy, "What is your childhood trauma?" It's just so Heathers. It was great. So the TV series, as it goes on, and it starts in the pilot, but as it goes on, also subverts tropes on a regular basis that we had been seeing pretty regularly until then. So the best one from episode 1 is when Buffy is being followed by Angel. And as a viewer, you're quite convinced she's in danger because she's a tiny girl, she's being followed by a large, strange man down the street. But in the next scene, Buffy is lying wait for Angel and turns the tables on him and ambushes him. So the way she's lying in wait for him and quickly obtains the upper hand in the situation, by 90s standards, was completely unexpected. I'm also loving seeing the pre-social media, pre-tech in your pocket world. As a Gen X, that's the world I grew up in, and it was great to be reminded of how things used to work. We carried books and notebooks around at school. We had landlines, so we had to make our plans in advance and stick to them. You had to tell your parents where you were going to be and then be there. The library at the school doesn't even have a computer. The television in Buffy's room is a massive cube, and not one selfie was taken in those halls at that school in the pilot episode. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you about episode 1. This got a little long, so I'm going to save future comments for the next episode you guys cover. I can't wait to listen to your thoughts on the episodes you've chosen. Thanks again for doing this podcast, guys. I'm really excited.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jody. And I want everyone to be clear on this. Send in comments about any episode up to the one we're covering. Like, we're happy to hear all of that stuff. And if you want to have a spoilery comment, just label it spoilers and then send it in, and we'll play it at the end during the spoiler section. Like, we want to hear your thoughts on everything about Buffy. And we'll make it work within the podcast. And it's so fun to hear from people, especially people like on the other side of the planet. I love that. I'll never get tired of it.
Well, and Jody's message made me think Buffy, for some reason, is one of those shows more so than others. When I'm rewatching it, I'm always like, man, a cell phone would ruin this episode.
Yeah.
All of these characters had, like, easier access to the internet on their phones or the ability to text each other. There are so many plots that would have just been shot to shit, basically.
When cell phones first started being pretty common in the late 90s, the trope was always, oh no, I don't have a signal. Like, they had to do that every time. And I remember there's an episode of Charmed where two of the sisters are transported, like, into some subterranean, like, lair, and one of them still has signal, and she's like, this new phone is amazing.
That's
cracks me up. So funny.
Jeez.
Thank you guys, everybody, for writing in and following us and joining us on this journey. It means the world to me to be doing this podcast, and that I have a co-host who loves Buffy as much as I do. I'm so happy right now, you guys.
It's so much fun.
It's great. Well, that is the end of the main section of the podcast.
Stay tuned if you want to hear the spoilery discussion.
So many spoilers. If you'd like to join the conversation or find out more about Podcastica, you can find all of our contact information at podcastica.com.
You can write in or record a message right there on the website, or find links to our social media pages and our other shows. Right now, we have a lot going on at Podcastica. They're about to start White Lotus Season 2. Ahsoka is going strong. Wheel of Time. Loki comes out soon. What else is going on?
That's true. I've been re-listening to older episodes, I'll say, because that's always a plus. If there's something out there that's excellent, especially in kind of our niche of fun, kind of nerdy fandoms, there's a Podcastica show covering it. Like, I was late to Breaking Bad, and listening to how much Jason especially loved that show made me finally start watching it, and now I'm into Better Call Saul. So I've been listening to the Podcastica coverage of Better Call Saul. So there's plenty out there.
There's plenty. Yeah, you could look forward to like Cobra Kai when that comes out. There was talk about Interview with a Vampire as well being covered.
That'd be fun.
When Netflix comes back with Sandman, look forward to hearing me and Jamie Dimmick on Sandman cast.
I love it.
That's what I do for Podcastica as well. So there's a whole Podcastica family out there.
Yeah, and Ben and Kristen are about to start Ted Lasso.
Yep,
on
the Revisited.
Right. Yeah.
There aren't enough hours in the day.
I know. I have such a backlog of podcasts I want to listen to. It's ridiculous. But, you know, I'd rather have too much content than not enough.
Exactly.
And if you like what we do, hit like, follow, and subscribe. It really helps the other listeners find us.
And next time on this show, we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 11, Ted. And we'll be joined by Randy Stevenson, one of the hosts of Podcastica's Welcome to the White Lotus podcast. I'm pretty excited to cover Ted with John Ritter. Not
it's an
gonna
amazing
lie.
episode.
And do remember to check out Mark's website. Mark, make sure I'm saying this correctly. Is it Pirate Core Entertainment?
Yep, piratecoreentertainment.com.
And listen to Adrenaline's Cinema Podcast and Panels to Pixels.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Be seeing you.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
All right, that's the end of the non-spoiler section. If you want to avoid spoilers, you should stop listening in 3, 2, 1, now! On to the Watchers Diaries.
It's too bad we can't sneak a look at the Watcher Diaries. I'm sure it's full of fun facts to know and tell.
Yeah, that's too bad. That stuff is private.
Also, Giles keeps them in his office, in his personal files.
Most importantly, it would be wrong.
All right, now we can get out all the stuff we wanted to talk about before. Like, I can say, I love Ethan Rayne. I think he's one of the best TV villains ever.
So much fun.
I love watching him. I wish that he and Spike had time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they would have been a really terrifying team, actually, because they would have really hit it off, and it could have been dangerous for the entire world.
Yeah.
Ethan is considerably smarter, I think, when it comes to his evil plots than Spike. So putting them together would be pretty tumultuous.
Yeah.
And he always seems to come back, whereas Spike, he comes back, but he's consistently back for a while, leaves for a short time, and then comes back even longer.
Yeah. There's a great moment in season 4 when Ethan gets caught by Buffy and Riley, and he goes, I have to learn to leave town. It's the staying around and gloating that gets me every time.
Yep, and I think that was the same episode that I was thinking about when the candy bars and everybody gets turned to
that's
little
season
kids.
3. That's season 3.
Bland candy.
I love band
that
Oh,
candy.
I love that because it's like you get to see a version of Giles that we never got to see before in that particular episode, and Joyce and him get together and
oh gosh,
and
oh,
you see
yeah.
Ripper.
Buffy.
But I think we get to notice his tattoo at that point as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
And Joyce is like this like boy crazy teenager
chewing gum the whole time.
Yep.
And that's a good one. I will say, so your mention of Xander and the way that they milk this experience he had as a soldier.
Oh yeah.
Like forever.
They do. Even up
up
to the point where Anya's in the Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
Like I think it's even up through like season 7. I think there's even a like,
Or maybe the
it
battle,
comes in
the ending
handy.
battle of the finale
Right?
too.
Yeah.
Like, and it made me wonder every time I watch this episode. I'm just like, so these poor children.
Oh
who
no!
Dressed up as like demons
They're beating
or
the hell out of these
monsters,
kids.
or do they retain these memories? Like, does that little kid remember strangling and ripping apart that old lady,
Or eating
like,
their throat out.
yeah, like
they
all of
must.
these horribly traumatic experiences. Like, good on the kid that dressed up as a doctor. Like, maybe they retain some sort of
medical
knowledge or something
but
like
yeah,
that.
the monster kids have to be like completely
poor
freaked
children.
out.
Therapists must be a really, really good job to have in Sunnydale.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be a lot of messed up children, especially after that. But it's just, it makes me wonder. I mean, Buffy, I wish they would kind of throw back some callbacks with her, like remembering, I don't know, like some
Being
sort
a
of
noble girl?
like 18th century etiquette or formalities that come out every now and then. But I can't really blame them for using Xander's military knowledge in the future. It does come in handy.
Yeah, and
But I
it's
think-
funny when it comes up. What I always have wondered about Xander is how come he never has like taken a boxing class or martial arts training or sword training. He's
only
just
thing
like, I'm
only
going to get
ath-
in there and fight. But he never... Oh.
And the only athletic thing he had done was, what, join the swim team?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, that episode.
That
but it's
episode
true.
made me laugh, though.
Oh, it's a hilarious
He and
episode.
Willow both, like, once you know that vampires and demons are a thing and you live on a hellmouth and you are best friends with the Slayer, inevitably, you're gonna get into some sort of physical conflict.
Altercation, yeah.
You know, like, I would want to prepare myself as much as possible.
Yeah,
But
I
guess
would be training. I'd be like, well, I need to learn how to
time.
use a sword or a knife or a stake. Like, it, and like Willow does, like she starts doing the black arts and she becomes a witch and she's very powerful.
Yeah.
But like Xander, he just like learns how to do basic construction. Like, it's so weird.
He's always fixing
That's-
the mess that Buffy makes.
Yeah.
He's rebuilding the house.
Well, you know, especially in this episode when they see how crazy things are when they don't have Buffy to help. Like, you gotta have some sort of skill.
especially when she died again. Spoilers.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
she was gone and they had Robo Buffy. The Buffy
gosh,
bot, remember
Buffy
that?
Bot, yeah.
That was a special time with Spike.
Oh God, especially when he used that Buffy bot.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
We have several
yeah.
seasons to go, but
that
we're gonna
might be
get there.
part of Spike that I didn't love. But I think one of my favorite comments that I can't remember if it was on Instagram on somebody else's post about Halloween, somebody had said, what if that Halloween Warren had dressed like a mad scientist who was also a misogynist? And that's
what happened to
his character. And I was like, that is a deep cut.
Yeah.
Like, that is, I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's good. I like that.
Well, I
That
like
makes me
how
happy.
this episode sort of foreshadows one of my all-time favorite episodes, which is Helpless in season 3, the one where they take away her powers.
Yes.
You know, seeing
that
Buffy
one's a
weak
good
and vulnerable is interesting and confusing.
Yep.
And Helpless, I think, is just really a brilliant episode. It changes Buffy and Giles's relationship forever. And I love that
He's so anxious.
that Joyce at the end is so proud of Buffy. She's like, oh, she was very clever. Like she's completely turned around on Buffy being the Slayer, and oh my God.
And that reference to where, you know, I do enjoy the dynamic between Willow and Buffy, these two teenage girls talking about Angel and wanting to go into Giles's Watcher Diaries to find out more about him. And when Willow's reassuring Buffy, you know, he would never fall for someone like Cordelia, like that here. And I was just like, well, not yet.
Yeah.
Give it a few
time.
years.
Give it time until he goes back to being a teenager. And
I was like, well, we'll see.
Yeah. It's coming.
And he's smoking cigarettes and listening to Cream with Joyce. And she goes, you got cool records, yeah. And he's listening to the Tales of the Great Ulysses. And he's like, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
That whole scene, that's in my head. I was starting to write notes off the top of my head. And I was like, wait a minute. That is a completely different episode with Ethan Rain.
Yeah. That's a different season. We'll get there.
But it was funny. Things tend to meld when I binge watch these shows, and I'll fall asleep to them, and they just subconsciously, like, the memories, like even the John Ritter episode. But the best episode that I always loved was Homecoming, which was the predecessor and the idea and thought for Cabin in the Woods.
Oh,
that
which one
they
is
wrote.
Homecoming?
Is it really?
Yes, that's where the idea of Cabin in the Woods came from.
How did I not? I watched Cabin in the Woods 3 days ago, and I watched that episode last week. I don't know how I didn't.
That's the Homecoming when Buffy and Cordy go for Homecoming Queen.
Oh, right.
And they take the limo together. They're forced here. We got this limo for you, and the limo gets hijacked, and they're taken to, and they call it Slayer Fest. But they think Cordy is Faith.
Yep.
Fantastic.
And they're stuck in a cabin, and they have to face off against these, like, demon, vampire, bounty hunters that are looking to kill.
Oh, yeah.
And literally that's where they got the impetus for Cabin in the Woods. But the cool thing about that, it pits Cordy and Buffy together, and their differences about each other come out in that. And they have a huge spat, and I think that's where they make up at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think that's after Cordy broke up with Xander at that point, too.
Yeah.
So many good episodes.
I know. Season 3, we're gonna have a hard time picking what to cover and what not to cover.
And I wanted to, with Larry, the introduction of Larry in this episode, we see him bullying Xander off and on, and later it's revealed that he is gay, and that's something that he's struggled with. And I always wonder if they knew that about him, or if it just kind of came out later on, because the way that he turns into this, kind of horrible, womanizing, rapist pirate, being as...
It's because it's the spell. It's the complete opposite of who he really is.
Exactly. Like,
I think they probably had
really
that hidden.
like that.
Yeah, I think they had that hidden.
The Larry being gay plot was already in the works at this point. Yeah.
And it just, it makes the writing of this episode and the callbacks and the call forwards and foreshadowing and everything just so much deeper, and how, Larry is not just a typical high school, like, two-dimensional character bully. We see one of the reasons why he bullies and projects and even as a side character,
he has a satisfying arc.
Yeah, like he gets development and this arc that I think is nice with some of the side characters in this show. Like everybody gets like some attention and development.
Even in this one for Halloween, the Halloween episode, the first one, we get a sneak peek of Jonathan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, but he's not really main, but they bring him back later on as the core group, and it's I always loved that character because even though they were nerdy and malicious, and there was something to their core which was innocent.
Yeah.
It was him and the other, except for the one that I really, Willow did exactly what I wanted, which was kill him.
Yeah.
Warren was the one that I think was purely,
evil.
Kind of evil to his core. Andrew and Jonathan are definitely more,
they're followers, right? They just did basically what Warren told them to do.
Yeah.
We didn't cover Reptile Boy for the reasons that I said, but it is a major foreshadow to what happens later in the season.
Oh, exactly.
It's about how even a pretty faced man who's polite and nice to you could still have a very dark
demon,
vile agenda underneath, and you don't know when someone's going to turn. And dating is an act of faith for women, right? Like you go out into the world and you're like, hope this guy doesn't kill me. Like you just it's a powerful episode. I was really blown away when I rewatched it. I was like, I don't remember how intense this is. Like they get fully roofied at that party. It's disturbing.
Yeah, it's so unsettling. And even I think the first time I saw that episode, I was doing my first watch in college when I was, getting the Netflix DVDs in the mail for Buffy. And it didn't even hit me back then as much as it did now. And I don't know, it was very unsettling. And especially after, being a prosecutor and prosecuting certain crimes of sexual assault, I was sitting there the whole episode going, this is brilliant. Like the intricacies and the themes and everything that they work in and how predatory these particular guys were. It was so well done.
Yeah. I at one point I had written in my notes, frat bros trolling for girls at the high school. Gross. And then I was moving it in my notes. So I cut it and then I pasted it and walked away from my laptop. And when I came back, my cat had been sitting on the computer and it was an entire page of frat bros trolling for girls at the high school. Gross. Frat bros trolling for girls at the high school. Gross. Just over and over and over.
That's funny.
And I was
really wanted to make that point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But nobody, the principal at the high school or no adult comes out and is like, why are you two adult men here picking up high school girls? Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
It's so creepy. It's like, you are not mature for your age.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see we don't even get to see frat stuff again until she goes into college and she has that thing where she goes to the bar and she's drinking.
Oh, I love that episode.
The caveman. The caveman. And she's just part of them. I mean, she winds up beating the hell out of them as well, too, as a caveman with her powers.
Yeah.
But it shows that bonehead mentality of what they are, and then Buffy was part of that too.
At least those guys weren't rapacious like these guys are. Although it's a metaphor for rape, right? It's like a snake. Yeah. It's not a subtle metaphor.
No, it's not.
Right.
I
was like, it's definitely pointed and
it's meant to be an ambiguous commentary.
I forgot to mention when I was doing the summary that that future Ozark star Jordana Spiro has a small role in that episode.
That's right.
Is that her name? Yeah, Jordana Spiro.
Yeah.
On My Boys.
I loved My Boys.
Me too.
Very underappreciated
I was really
sad
show. That went away.
Yeah.
Ugh, that was a good one.
And Kara, you mentioned, of course, you inadvertently mentioned James Charles Leary.
As Clem.
Oh, yeah.
We could talk about that. He was such a favorite character of mine, even though it's he comes off, he looks that way.
Oh, he's so
fun. Even though he's Spike's best friend after Spike was neutered.
He's so sweet. I love everything about Clem. There's that one episode where he's watching Dawn, and he's like, maybe we could go to a movie. You can get extra butter on your popcorn. Like, he's such a sweetie pie.
He's great.
Just don't leave him around cats. That's all.
That's just a minor detail.
No kitten poker. Creepy.
Ugh. And I cannot wait until we get more into Giles's background and history as Ripper. I forgot that this was the first episode that we first kind of get that glimpse.
I remembered it, and I love how later on we do get to see a picture of Anthony Stewart Head in a band playing bass guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
appropriate.
And to those listeners that are listening, Watchers was not the first thing that happens in only in Buffy, but they had that in the TV show Highlander as well. So that was a big trope, and it was the same kind of gimmick. They watched over all the Immortals and everything else, but they also had their own cliches too, like being a musician as well. Yeah. And we do get to hear Anthony Stewart Head play guitar later on as well.
And sing. He's a good singer.
That's true.
Yeah,
he is good.
The Talamasca in the Anne Rice books is another example. They're basically Watchers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, I'll be covering Interview with a Vampire on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, the movie, to go with our continuity for the coverage of the show.
Oh, awesome.
With Lara and Danny. So Danny's leading the way. I'm just there to hang back and talk and have fun.
That'll be fun.
But we're going to cover the movie, which actually talks about that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Very fun.
I can't wait. I'll definitely send in some feedback. I love the movie version of the book.
It's interesting. And the TV show version is completely rewritten for it, but I like what they've done.
Yeah. I haven't really watched the show. Maybe I'll give it another try, but right now I'm sort of a little bit buried under. There's a lot of shows right now.
And if the listeners are interested in more Anthony Stewart Head, a movie that you would not actually picture him in, Ghost Rider 2. He plays a monk. And it was like the first time I had seen him in years after like Buffy was off the air, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's Anthony Stewart Head. That's Anthony Head. And it's amazing to see him, but it's kind of him being the typical character that he plays like in Giles within that movie.
Yeah.
As well. He's protecting something at a monastery.
He is so fun on Ted Lasso as a villain.
He's perfect as
it's the
a
best.
villain.
I really enjoy him on that show. It's too bad that we don't get to hear him and Hannah Waddingham sing together. Because he has a great voice and she has an amazing voice.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should wrap this up. We've really gone on some tangents.
Yes, we did.
That's all right. It's all in the fun.
Hey, stop it. Sorry, my dogs are being assholes to my cat.
I understand that problem. I don't have to yell at any ducks today. That's good.
That's good.
All right.
All of that was fun last time. Yeah, sorry.
That's the complete end of our show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Penny.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Kara.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's Golo.com. Again, Golo.com.